Yeah.
All right.
Interesting. Yeah, this HST thing that happened recently had some mortgage agents, some lenders reach out like, hey, what do you think this is going on? How's this actually going to be structured? How is CRA going to look at it? Um, a lot of people have questions, and then there are many others that will say that they're just going to wait and see how it plays out.
You know what? I never even thought about that. That's an interesting thing with so with incentive stacking, you got the HST, you got developer incentives, right? Is that going to be counted as income?
Right.
Or all of a sudden, like if you stack all the HST benefits that are coming in the pipeline, and then you stack them with developer incentives, and let's say you walk away from a deal with like 180K in your pocket plus a property, is that 180K of income?
That remains to be seen. I think like that's something for a CRA to figure out. But the way that I see it is just like that was 180K that you were, as an end user, were getting screwed out of in the first place, because that gets I don't know what's the technical term, front loaded, end loaded, because you finance that on a purchase.
Right.
You pay for it as an end user, and you pay interest on that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like reverse mortgage.
Right.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Right. So is it recognized as revenue or an income, or yeah, like is it a draw,
Yeah.
a forward draw, right? Yeah.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's interesting because that's been the big talk is the incentives this week,
Right.
and the menage a trois between the conservatives, liberals, and NDP, I guess you could call it,
Right.
with the Carney, Chow, Ford.
We only have 3 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah. And then everybody's getting all upset because this is an Ontario deal.
Right.
Right. So all the other provinces are working out their sort of initiatives. Only 50% of the development fees are going to be waived.
Right. And that's not, when something has gone up 6,000% and then you're only cutting it back 50%, like you're still 30x over and above what it used to be. And what if you are a smaller municipality who has reasonable development fees already, and how is that going to be treated? If you were only charging, I don't know, 15,000, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're legislated to only charge 7,500. Does that even work on your town's books, right? Like, how is that going to be treated, and where is that funding, or if there's a gap, where is that going to come from?
Yeah, and I think so. Bigger question for me is it time to scrap the 3 tiers of government? Like this is the question, because now the federal government, which is supposed to be in charge with international issues, and then we have the provincial government, which is obviously the province issues, and then we have the municipal government, the city. Now, like the dog is wagging the tail.
Right.
Right? Because you have the carrot and you have the stick.
Right.
And the sort of independence that each government's supposed to have is no longer there. They're just eliminating it.
Agreed. I think it's very reactionary as well too.
Yeah.
It's I think it should be quite obvious to everyone at this point that most politicians and political parties are completely out of touch with what everyday life is like for almost everybody. Mm-hmm. And they're continually, I think, reacting to news rather than being proactive and nurturing an environment where people can thrive. So, I mean, maybe you want to know what I think, but maybe others don't. But I think housing policy um, should be depoliticized, should be separate. It should be peer reviewed, peer led, peer everything. It shouldn't be politicized at all. Because I can't think of any time in my short life or long life where government being active in directing policies and regulation has actually resulted in a tangible positive outcome for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think, and I'm open to being corrected, of course, but
I don't know.
yeah.
I think government policy, especially in Canada, we have a sort of the core foundation to be a really great country.
Right.
I think that if you look at how we've progressed, there is evidence to say that we have been successful with government policy. The problem is I don't think that that evidence is based on today's current government.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
like I would say that Canada has definitely been resting on its laurels from over 30 years ago,
Yeah.
40 years ago even. What have you done for me lately kind of thing.
And housing is I think the thing that people don't realize is housing is a lagging indicator,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The overall economy drives housing, right? The
Right.
way we got into this mess was overstimulation from the Bank of Canada starting in 2009 with Mark Carney's policies,
Right.
right? And then the Liberals, when COVID came, with their everybody gets a check, Oprah type policy. And then we just ended up where they slammed on the brakes and decided to change everything from even their immigration policy, right? Which
Right.
was completely not well thought out. It was a deviation from Canada's core principles, which is bring smart immigration
Right.
that wants to contribute.
Qualify them. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
to low skilled immigration without a plan to support
Yeah.
that.
It's should be quite obvious to most people. It's like the immigration program has been very low caliber.
Right.
And it's evidenced by, I would say, just look at the condition of our streets, just look at the condition of the environment, our built environment, and how much, I would say, crap there is everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and the behavior on the road. Like I drive probably 50,000 cars a year, and it's been over 20 years of that. In the last 5 or 6 years, I've never experienced this level of tomfoolery on the road. Like it is beyond. It's getting beyond tolerable at this point.
All right. So, do you think these initiatives are going to be enough to spark a upward trend in the real estate market this spring? I guess it's summer now.
Mm-hmm.
Or is this going to actually be a negative thing? Because if we don't start to see improvements and we've made these efforts, I was with a builder the other day and he was talking about 2008, and they actually misprinted a launch that they were doing by $400,000.
Wow.
And they sent it out. But nobody showed up.
Right.
And when nobody showed up, they actually canceled the project.
Right.
Because they realized that they screwed up so badly. Nobody came to claim that.
Right.
That this was never going to work.
Right.
Are we at that point?
I think the conversation of sales and price is going to change. Like there may be movement on sales. That may change, but I think everyone on everyone's mind is also price. And I think these incentives will drive some sales, but as far as driving price growth, I don't see that happening. I think it's going to be flat
Okay.
at best for the next several years, but maybe the incentives that come out or these ones take some effect. We start to learn more, and maybe there's more to come, and I feel like that may change some people's minds as far as moving forward with a transaction. But I don't really see them helping anything with price growth,
Right.
because price is what you pay, and value is what you get. Are any of these incentives actually going to help create value? Are any of these incentives going to help help developers be more creative or be more innovative or execute on building better rather than just building what works, in a sense?
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hard to say. What do you think?
I think there's going to be a segment of the population that really exploits this and does well. I think the incentive stacking strategy is starting to look way more attractive. I think that even for developers, what I've had, so what I've actually seen with developers is the fact that they're now considering holding on and renting their projects,
Right. Yeah.
because of the incentives, right? And waiting until the market turns around and then in hopes of selling them. I think for the first time home buyers, the people that haven't experienced the hurt and the propaganda where it has affected them and their lives, there is an opportunity and they'll be willing to, take the deflated pricing, take the initiative to go and look at a condo downtown with the developer giving you $80,000 in benefits. Take the HST credit, take the development charges that you'll have to pay less on, and put it all together in a package and move forward. But there's a whole segment that's basically there's a whole segment that is the lost generation,
Right.
right?
Right. I think that pseudo lost generation conversation is a very powerful one, and I think it's up to us in the industry to find a way to, I think, engage with them, find a way to, I think, create pathways for them to communicate what their aspirations actually are, or what it looks like, what it feels like. I think that could be really powerful. Yeah, it's a really interesting puzzle to solve, I think. And how do you get people to imagine and communicate what it is they want? And many have grown up not knowing that other options could be possible, or could be created, or could be built. But what are the challenges that are in the way? And how do we overcome them or create solutions for that?
Do you still see real estate in Canada as an investment?
I think real estate in Canada has been for too long been marketed and communicated as an easy passive investment. And I think what I've learned in real estate is that there's hardly anything passive about it. It requires thought. It requires conviction. It requires risk. It requires a lot of capital as well too. I don't see any of it being passive. And in real estate, ultimately, it's an investment in yourself. Especially if you're talking about in a primary residence, I think what's actually needed is a better environment for a better variety of housing typologies to be built and sold or rented that fit people's life stages better, or fit what what their kind of life designs might be. Which is, again, it's a lot of chicken and egg kind of conversation.
And what is that?
Yeah, exactly. What
why
is it?
Like if
I want to know.
If this is so, my issue with this is, if this is what was wanted, other than real estate professionals.
Mm-hmm.
So the population speaks about their needs through their dollars and what they do with it, right? Real estate has always been an investment,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, you can go back to the 50s, right? It's always been a safe vehicle to save and a relatively moderate growth.
Right. And I think that's the key word, moderate growth.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's always been this investment vehicle that people understand. But then it gets skewed by industry professionals like you and I,
Sure.
where we're talking about what other people want. But the truth of the matter is, if you ask somebody what they want, it's different than what they need. And it varies so much. And most of the people having these conversations, talking about affordability, so I think there should be a criteria. If you're talking about affordability, I want to see, if you're saying 80s was the most affordable time period in history, okay, that's fine. Average house was $250,000 here in Toronto, right? Do you have the down payment right now in your bank account for that house in the 80s?
Right.
If you don't, do you have a say? Because you wouldn't have afforded that even with today's wages, And I get it, like, it's more expensive, it's harder to save, yada, yada, yada. But my grandfather, when he took out his second mortgage, right, it was $28,000. He thought he'd never get out of debt.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I think having these conversations and reading old articles and things like those, I think those feelings have kind of always been there throughout history, especially in Canada, where my parents, grandparents, friends, other family, that whenever they, in a sense, decided that they wanted to invest in themselves, invest in the real estate and where they live, that it would never, it seemed like you're digging yourself into a pit that you would never get yourself out of.
Yeah.
I think it's always been like that. And maybe it was simpler times back then for the next, for getting ahead and moving forward. I think it's likely still possible now, but I think we should all take the time to be a little bit more, I guess, sophisticated about it. Just education, loading up on the education up front about what it actually means for your pocketbook, but also what it actually means for your quality of life, and where do you see yourself 3 to 5 to 10 years, kind of thing. I'm a big fan of urban living. I'm a big fan of being in a city, being part of that energy, finding a way to contribute, finding ways to enjoy, finding ways to create, I guess. Mm-hmm. But for many others, it isn't. And I understand that for a lot of people out there, the suburban life appeals to them, and that's totally fair. it really is up to the individual to have that, I think, personal reflection of what does home actually mean to you? What does home actually feel like? And how, you know, how long are you willing to sacrifice for, I guess, too? Because that's what it takes. Like it's always going to take that, no matter what it is.
Home ownership has never been a right. It's
No,
always been a privilege.
It's always a privilege. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing. If we all have the right to shelter, right? The definition of shelter varies. So it's very interesting. Like, it stops at if I want to be independent and put up a tent somewhere, right?
Right.
And call that home, right? Not judging.
Right.
Just if that's my choice. Let's just say it was my choice. Do I have the right to live under that shelter? Well, the laws say no. Generally not.
Right. Right.
But somehow home ownership has got demonized where it's like blended into rental, and then it's blended into social housing.
Right.
And we don't look at everything as separate categories. And they're very different markets, different very needs. The rules are very different. On Toronto housing, right? Toronto housing doesn't have to go through the landlord-tenant tribunal to evict.
Yeah, very interesting.
And Olivia Chow has had the highest eviction rate out of any past government in the last 2 decades.
Right.
Right? And meanwhile, she's saying she's an advocate for
affordable housing.
This type of housing.
Yeah.
Right? And the people that are put into this type of housing aren't afforded the same rights to protection.
Right.
On determining whether they get evicted or not.
Right. It's that security of tenureship. I think most people fundamentally want to know that wherever it is or whatever it is that they've chosen to be home remains to be home at their will, rather than forces that are outside of their control.
Yeah.
And I know home ownership, provides the highest level of that, in a sense. And I think rental right now is still a little bit of, I think it's breaking out of that kind of some stigmatism, some cultural stigma of, rent, people's conversations, why rent when you can own? Well, I guess it makes sense when the numbers were the same, but the gap is massive right now between ownership and rental.
Even with that gap,
right.
My argument's there is no historical data that suggests renting is better than owning.
No, I think that it really is up to the individual of how they want to manage what home is to them and how they want to manage their income. And there are tons of pros and cons to both, and the individual needs to decide what is important, what they want to prioritize. And that's I think that's an important conversation that I don't think happens enough. Like it really is up to you yourself, and many in our industry want to help you with that, want to help you with that reflection, or want to help you with the questions and help you with the facts as well too. It's important. I think that's our job. Our job is, again, I think we talked about this before, but I think the word is ultimately stewardship. And having that conversation, building up our own knowledge so that we can help get you going in the right direction, whatever it might be. I don't think there's any wrong answers, right? Until they are proven to be wrong. But
I think there is wrong answers when you decide what your goals are.
Right.
Like, we're going to a society it appears that like we're going back to monarchies where there's wealthy landowners and everybody else is a peasant, right? Like the middle class is gone, where you just kind of have a good life, you downsize, you take out a little bit of equity that pays for your retirement, you're able to leave your kids with something.
Mhm.
To if you're not sophisticated, you're not structuring your um, wealth strategy, and you don't have access to these types of expert advice, you're getting left behind.
Right.
um, and if you're a renter without a strategy to move forward, like I think you're getting left behind.
Right. Yeah. Like if you haven't, I think, considered what does moving forward look like to you, it may not include home ownership, and that, first of all, should be okay.
Yeah.
And secondly, there are so many other vehicles out there, so many other strategies out there, but it takes some education. It takes some reflection as well too about what actually um, I think interests you.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it, right?
I think it's just frustrating as a real estate professional, where I'm trying to assist people to achieve their goals, whatever that may be,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it's just to rent a place in a really cool location that is, we'll say market rent, they're not paying too much, and within their means and achieves their goals, like I love helping them. But I'm super frustrated right now with the narrative in the media and some of the other professionals in the industry that are just propagating this negative view. Um, let's call him the disgruntled mortgage guy. And you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um, Fuck, you wouldn't have bought anything in the last decade if you listened to his content.
Sure. I mean, I like his content. I like the conversations too. Um, Again, I'm very individualistic. I think that it is on everyone to gather as much information as possible, but you have to filter and decide what actually works for you. And yeah, you're not wrong. Like if anyone only ever listened to anyone, they likely would not be doing. They would likely would not be in the position that they wanted to be, or thought they would be, and if they had only, I think, listened or digested a certain, one certain source of information. I think it does take having that palette of or variety of information to pick from and choose from, and um, think about and reflect on, and even test contrarian views, test alternate perspectives. It's important. I think it's a very important decision. And our industry needs to understand that too. Like we can't just always be,
But
it's only up or it's only crap. And
I'm so frustrated
Yeah.
with that, because here's my perspective on the situation, right? It's not that fucking complicated.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When you buy a house, regardless of price, you get the net, as long as you're like, I can afford to live in this house. And listen, I've always been a fixed mortgage guy. And right now, I don't care what the rates are. I think people should look at fixed rates, because you lock in what you can afford. You sleep at night, you're not fucking day trading rates, right? But at the end of the day, you get the intrinsic value of pride of ownership. You get the intrinsic value of living in a home, having a savings vehicle that's proven out, that's very simple to understand. Okay. And all of this other sort of noise, like they demonize all the investors that bought condos, right?
Right.
Let's go back to 2022. 2021, right? Well, what else are you supposed to do with your savings, right? There was like negative interest rates, so you can't put it in a GIC, otherwise you're losing money, right?
Right.
Real estate was stable, immigration was high, right? All the information that you would have assembled at that point in time said that pre-construction was a good investment.
Sure. Sure. I mean, I had a contrarian view at that point for myself, but
what was that based on?
it was based on, I think, areas of Ontario that were seeing, you could say, price per square foot at the same levels as downtown core.
Fair.
And to me, I'm sorry, like Northeast Oakville is not downtown Toronto.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, like $1,100 a square foot in Milton is not even close to comparable to $1,200 downtown. Like,
but here's the thing:
Yeah.
if you were doing all the economic analysis, right, and at
Right.
that time you were looking out for your clients, you would say that like supply and demand is not the same. When I look at Port Dover, and a house is $1 million, and I can buy 4 acres of field right next door, right?
right,
That's problematic.
right,
But a condo downtown where land's limited, development's limited, government policy makes it expensive, right? The demand for people to live because of entertainment, education, economic robustness,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Social opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All of this said that, hey, buying a condo downtown, even if it's 300 square feet, which is not every single condo that's sold,
right,
was a good, smart investment based on all the information. So I think my point is that if you're trying to take the information, people took the information and made really good choices with the information they had. We got to forget about that. We got to just, you need a house, you need to live in it.
right.
Over time, this is going to work out for you, right? Just get a fixed rate, buy the house you can afford in the area you want to live in, and turn off the TV.
Right. And you made you said it. I think a key phrase there is like over time. I think a 2-year time horizon is not over time. I think it's got to be at least 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Always 5 to 10.
And I think this whole idea of upgrading
Right.
is out the window.
Right.
Buy something that you like, you can live in, and just live your life, pay it off.
Right. And ultimately, like, housing is a product. Housing is a product, and it is consumed. You or somebody has to take care of it. You or somebody has to problem solve. You or somebody has to maintain and do the things necessary so that that product remains at its optimal operational status.
Yeah.
Because if you need to leave it and it's a rental, that's a different story. Someone's, the operator still has to refit for the next tenant. But if you need to change your life, you need to sell, and especially in a time like this is much more, I would say, turbulent for a sale. Like, how are you going to stand out, or how is your product going to be different from everything else that's around? And I think it does take things like a good regimen or routine of making sure things are handled and taken care of over time. That shows. I think it shows when it comes time to buy or sell. When you're looking at a property, I think you can tell. You can tell if somebody's been taking care of the place, and I think you can tell when it's just got a coat of lipstick on.
Yeah.
Yeah.